If you're looking for a new and different dish for Thanksgiving, this cinnamon apples is the dish you need to make. I ran across this years ago and it's just so gorgeous when you put it on the buffet. You need to start out with some tart Granny Smith apples. About this size really looks nice. And also try to get the stem because we want the apple, once it's done, to look as lifelike as possible. So look for the stems. The other ingredient are these Bragg's Cinnamon Imperial Red Hots. This is a 9-ounce package. You can find them by different names, but they're these small, flat, red hots that we used to have as children, and this is the kind that you need for the recipe. The other ingredient is a little bit of red food coloring, and then we're going to use a special edible item to make our leaf once we're done with the apples. So let's get started. The first thing to do is, of course, peel the apples, and I find that the best way to do that is with an apple peeler. If you don't have an apple peeler, a good sharp paring knife does just as well. Also, when you're searching for your apples, try to find ones without any blemishes, because if they have a blemish, the dye will be a little bit darker in that area once the apples are done. So try to find a beautiful, tart apple, no blemishes, with a stem again. You simply push the apple onto the apple peeler. Make sure it's affixed firmly to your cabinet, and you just turn the peeler. It's really a neat deal. And it just slices the apple peeling right off. Isn't that cool? So I'll go ahead and prepare the other apples, and then we'll go to the stove and get started on our next step. Whether you use an apple peeler or you're peeling by hand, be sure and get all of this at the top off. You want just the stem sticking out, like these are doing. So just trim that off. Be careful not to cut the stem. Just like that. I have the water on for just a few minutes. I have this large kettle, probably about half full, half to 3/4 full of water. You're going to want to let your water get slightly warm to the touch. That feels pretty good. Before you put your red hots in. I'm going to use just one of the 9-ounce packages of red hots. If I were actually making this for a large group, I probably would do a couple of batches of apples, and each time I would add a little bit more of the cinnamon red hots. So I'll just put those in. Be careful not to splash yourself as you're putting these in. You'll find that your house will really start smelling good as you're making this. Be sure to sort of constantly stir this until the red hots dissolve. The water is already turning a beautiful pink. Just keep stirring until everything is dissolved. As you can see, it's turning pink. I wish you guys could smell it. It smells wonderful. Keep picking your spoon up and see if there's any red hots that are not dissolved. What you want is when you lift the spoon up that there are no red hots still undissolved. That looks perfect. We'll add just a couple of drops of red food coloring just to give a little bit brighter color to the liquid. Just like that. Stir that in. As you can see, our liquid is darker red. Let's put just a little bit more. So that's about 6 drops so far. Now that's just the right color right there. Now carefully put your apples in. It's easiest if you just pick them up by the stem and drop them in. Be careful that you don't splash yourself. Keep your heat on medium-high. The apples will float. I find that I'm able to put about 6 apples at a time. You want the apples to have a little bit of room, but they don't need to be super far apart. It's fine for them to be a little bit crowded. I probably could get another one in here. Probably could have 7. We'll just let that cook for a few minutes and keep turning the apples as they're cooking, just like I'm doing there. Turn your heat up just a little bit. You want to bring these to a good boil. You can see they're already getting pretty pink color. Just put a little bit more food coloring. And we'll bring those to a boil. Apples are coming to a boil now. As they cook in this liquid, they'll also absorb the flavor of the cinnamon from the red hots. Now that they stop boiling, the easiest way to get them out of the pot is with a large spoon. Be careful because they're very hot. Just lift each one out and put onto a plate. This is not going to be my serving plate. This is just the plate I'm going to use to cool the apples on. Just like that. We'll let these cool for just a few minutes, then we'll put in the refrigerator and we'll make the sauce for the apples. We'll go ahead and put about 2 cups of our liquid from the large pot where we melted the red hots to cook the apples into a smaller saucepan. And then we'll take about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch in a small bowl. Get a whisk. And to that we'll add, maybe a 1/3 cup of cold water. And just whisk that all together. I'm going to just make sure it's really incorporated well. So it looks almost like a milk. Go ahead and turn the heat back on underneath your saucepan to medium. And then pour this liquid into the cinnamon red hot mixture. Go ahead and add just a couple of drops of the red food coloring to this now because it's really more of a pink now since we added the white to it. Stir that in. And we'll just keep stirring this until it thickens just a little bit. What we want it to be is the consistency that we can pour over the apples, but not too thin so that it won't stick to the apple. So I'll just stir this for a few more minutes. As you stir it and the cornstarch dissolves, it'll start to turn a more dark red color also. Just continuously stir it. It will also sort of come to a boil, and just as it starts to come to a boil is usually when it's ready. So let me turn off the heat and show you the consistency that you're looking for. Looking for the consistency like this, where it coats the spoon, just like that. We'll get our apples back out after we let this cool for a minute, and we'll cut our apples. So our apples have cooled from the refrigerator. They're still slightly warm to the touch. As you can see, they are a pretty nice red color, but they need a little bit something more, don't you think? Our sauce is thickened and now it's still warm from the stove. So just pour that over your apples. Again, this is not the serving dish, this is just our prep dish. But see how they start to look really pretty now? We want them to be glistening and delicious. So just pour that over each of your apples. Just like that. It smells so delicious. Just coat every surface of the apple. It looks so pretty with the stems. Gonna look even better when we get them on our serving plate and do our final touch. Just check and make sure all the apples are coated. And just put these back into the refrigerator for about 15 minutes. Apples out of the refrigerator, they chilled for about 30 minutes. I removed them from their prep plate and put them onto this green cake stand. I love to serve them on something green because I think it makes the red color really pop. We'll finish them off by putting some fresh mint leaves onto our apples. Just simply stick the leaf right like that. See how they really start to take on a life and look like real apples. You can see also the reason we wanted to have the stem so that they really do look like a real apple. They're just so gorgeous and smell so good, especially with the mint. There, just like that. Cinnamon apples. Don't they look great? And they're going to smell and taste just as good.